What's up, y'all? Welcome to the GI Justin channel. I've got an interesting thing to talk about with you guys today. We've talked at good length about the U.S. military and how it is shaping up right now in the world because of all these other things we discuss on the daily, about Ukraine, Russia, China, all these other things, and about how drastically undermanned and short the U.S. military is. Well, there's a new story that has just kind of hit the airwaves that is very, very close to my heart when it comes to discussing these things, and that is the situation facing Army helicopter aviation. I'm here to tell y'all Army helicopters, in a lot of ways, are the lifeblood of the Army and a lot of the other services when it comes to day to day operations. Between moving people from point A to point B, taking them on air assaults, providing them with intelligence and surveillance, all the way to, the gunships whose job is to go out and support the ground troops and blow stuff up. Well, it appears that kind of what is going on now is Army officials are admitting that there are several hundred U.S. military aviators who basically were required to leave the military before their time due to administrative errors from Human Resources Command. So the U.S. Army has a newspaper basically that kind of follows it called the Army Times. The Army Times reported that the U.S. Army Command realized around 600 pilots, most of which commissioned aviators in the branch from 2015 to 2020, had service obligations up to 3 years longer than previously communicated. And basically, they allowed all of these officers to depart the military due to their mistakes. These impacted officers signed basically active duty service obligations saying that they were choosing their branch. They chose aviation because they're smart, and that most of them were ROTC cadets or West Point aviators getting that seat. So kind of the way this whole thing breaks down, and I'll kind of give you the perspective from my position as well. For most branches, when they sign their commitment, they basically begin that as soon as they start their schooling. And in the contract language, Army aviators gain an extra 3-year commitment, giving them a 6-year commitment total. Kind of what's been going on, and it is also in my experience, is that the Army kind of tacks on your extra commitment following your completion of school. So it doesn't begin the day you sign your contract, it begins after you complete the aviation school. Well, if you have several schools ahead of that and a 2-year aviation school, you can do as many as 10 years on a 6-year contract. That is absolutely something that happens all the time. And I was no different. And in these cases, the Army allowed a lot of pilots with that particular contract to resign after finishing their 6-year obligation, applying the 3-year commitment concurrently with the aviation school time. So instead of running a 6-year contract, they basically did a 3-year contract. And over the course of that, they wasted a whole bunch of money on these aviators who only had to do 3 years instead of 6. So what happens there is, training an Army helicopter pilot costs about $2.5 million and can be even more depending on which airframe they select. If they take Chinooks or Apaches, the schooling is a little bit longer, so they're spending a little bit more money on it. So now the Army and the Army Times are coming back expressing basically their anger over the difference between the way things were formerly done versus the way it went for these aviators. Take me, for instance. I did nearly 10 years on my initial contract, and you're saying that these soldiers were able to do 3 years total and get out. So basically, they barely even made it into the active Army, and they were able to depart the service without ever performing any actual work. They didn't do anything, which, in a lot of cases for people kind of in my time frame and our time across the military, that's kind of frustrating because, we're doing upwards of 10. These people get the training and they're out in 3. Now they're kind of going back on this, and the government is saying, whoa, hold on a second here, aviators. You still owe us 3 more years. And a lot of these people have been out for a minute now, and they've moved on in their lives and gone on to other things. And now the Army's saying, hey, You still owe us some time. Thank you. Go ahead and grab your uniform and your stuff and come on back. Kind of where I wanted to go with this is this is the point. You know, the US military and the US government is in a lot of ways needing to get more soldiers, get more aviators, get more sailors, get more of everything. And then we come across situations like this where somehow there's a glitch in the matrix and the military just mismanages its own warfighters. And instead of fixing these problems and getting them all squared away, they allow the problem to propagate over 5 years and don't really come up with a fix for it and don't really have a plan to fix it. How do we move forward as a fighting force when we have issues like this? And the answer is the military needs to take a good look at itself and tighten up all these problems. You know, there's not a lot of real good cause for stuff like this. And the fact that it happens and that so many aviators are leaving and so many soldiers are leaving speaks to the fact that our military is a little bit out of touch, I think, and could do a little bit better in terms of the Army for straightening out these kind of problems. So I think we still have the greatest fighting force in the history of the world, in my opinion, no doubt. I can see where this would be frustrating on both sides. You know, it's kind of a scandal. I mean, you know, these people were well paid. They got university training because these are ROTC and West Point students, free college. You know, they received a multi-million-dollar education, and halfway through their commitment, they were able to get out of it. But from their perspective, the Army's the one keeping the clock. Why didn't they keep better track of these things? So I think, you know, in this instance, is it a scandal? Absolutely. Should they let these people go about their lives and admit the mistake and say, hey, bygones be bygones, we wish you the best? I think that's got to be the case here. And I think it speaks to what we've been talking about, that the military needs to better understand its situation and better control what's happening. So I love to hear what you guys want to, you know, what you have to say about this. You know, I'm going to link the old video that we previously talked about, the manning issues with the military, in the up here at the top in the beginning of the video. So I love to, like I said, I love to hear what you guys have to say about this, and I'm really curious to know what you think about this sort of thing, because it's kind of becoming, you know, there's definitely some issues and some flux in the military right now that I think need to get worked out based on what we're seeing geopolitically throughout the world. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for commenting. You guys are amazing. Have a good one.